And the state of emergency after the deadly tornadoes. At least 25 dead tonight in the Nashville area. Early indicators of a possible EF3 hitting in the middle of the night. Winds up to 165 miles per hour. Homes destroyed as people were sleeping. And tonight, a new round of storms expected to slam several states. We're live in the middle of the destruction, and meteorologist Rob Marciano times out the new threat tonight and tomorrow. Also breaking tonight, new cases of the coronavirus now spreading across the U.S. At least 9 deaths now reported in Washington state and in New York City tonight. A second patient testing positive. His family now quarantined as authorities try to retrace his steps on the train and through Grand Central Station. New York City subways disinfected. Tonight, he's in serious condition, and Dr. Jen Ashton is standing by, answering your questions again tonight. As we said, that high-stakes Super Tuesday underway, voting tonight in 14 states after a stunning 24 hours for Joe Biden. Amy Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg dropping out and endorsing Biden. Beto O'Rourke endorsing him too. What we've learned about President Obama tonight as several of his former advisors endorse Biden as well. And Bernie Sanders tonight going into this evening with huge momentum as well, a grassroots effort coast to coast. Mike Bloomberg on the ballot for the first time today. Elizabeth Warren facing a crucial test as the first exit polls come in right now, and we'll show you. The deadly plane crash on an American highway, several dead. The sniper scare here in New York City. And the wildfire threatening several homes tonight, families ordered to evacuate.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a very busy Tuesday night. The Super Tuesday showdown, the exit polls coming in right now. The coronavirus concern widening. News on that case in New York City. But we're going to begin tonight with a state of emergency after those deadly tornadoes in the south. At least 25 people killed in Tennessee, a massive tornado hitting while families were sleeping. In Nashville, a possible EF3 winds up to 165 miles an hour. Sunrise revealing the staggering damage there. Homes and buildings destroyed, tractor trailers overturned. Some families tonight have lost everything. Thousands now facing a very long road back. And tonight, the new threat moving into several states this evening. ABC's Victor Oquendo leads us off from East Nashville tonight. Victor?
David, here in East Nashville, the destruction is everywhere. Power poles snapped. Some houses have collapsed. It's clear that this neighborhood took the brunt of a tornado, and making things even more terrifying, it all happened in the middle of the night.
Tonight, the death toll is rising after powerful tornadoes wreaked destruction in and around Nashville. Sirens sounding in the middle of the night, power flashes illuminating the dark sky.
If you have friends, please, family members, call them, wake them up.
We heard the sirens going off, we heard the wind, we went in the basement. 20 seconds later, it was done.
Tractor trailers flipped on their sides. A fire chief rescuing this 7-year-old boy from outside his home. He was trapped by live wires. More than 150 hurt.
Our heart breaks for those whose lives were changed in an instant last night.
Dozens of homes and businesses flattened, geysers of water from broken pipes, cars tossed on top of each other, hangars and airplanes splintered at the John Thune Airport.
Early estimates from the National Weather Service indicate this damage is from an EF3 tornado with winds up to 165 miles per hour. This is all that's left of this church.
Amid the wreckage, incredible tales of survival.
We pulled the door shut.
Anna Kate Ross and her family sheltering in this closet, telling me when the storm passed.
The windows had been blown out, the doors had been blown open, and our neighbor had been ejected from his back house apartment back there into our yard, and he was in here trying to look for life.
But he survived.
He survived. He's doing great.
Tennessee election officials forced to close some Super Tuesday polling places in some of the hardest hit areas and delay openings for others. Tens of thousands of homes and businesses without power.
It is just staggering to see. Let's get back to Victor tonight. And I know officials are still searching for the missing tonight.
That's right, David. The governor just announced there is an unknown number of people still unaccounted for, making search and rescue efforts so difficult. Gas lines are broken, some water mains are damaged, and cell phone service is definitely spotty. Tennessee is voting in Super Tuesday primaries, and officials have announced that some sites will remain open until 10 o'clock. David?
All right, Victor Oquendo leading us off tonight. Worse, there's now a new threat as we head into the evening hours. Meteorologist Rob Marciano tonight with the latest track. Hey, Rob.
Hi, David. Unfortunately, the pattern is resetting for more rounds of severe weather, and we're still dealing with that front that brought the tornadoes to Tennessee. It stretches right up here into the Northeast, and I expect a round of storms here and through New York, Philly, and D.C. overnight, stretching down through the Carolinas and Georgia. And the next stronger wave is coming into Texas. Central Texas will get it tonight during the dangerous overnight hours again into Houston, down I-10, New Orleans, Biloxi, Mobile tomorrow. Dangerous, damaging winds, potentially some tornadoes and flooding rains, and that pushes into North Florida and South Georgia on Thursday. David?
All right, the devastating picture from the south tonight. Rob, our thanks to you as well. Also concern over the coronavirus here in the U.S. now widening tonight. 9 people have now died in Washington state, and that New York City case, now a new one. Meantime, 2 new states reporting their first cases tonight. Georgia and North Carolina added to the map. And that second confirmed case here in a New York City suburb, a man who traveled into Manhattan to work. Tonight, they are trying to retrace his steps. He's in the hospital in serious condition. Schools linked to his children are now closed, and New York is disinfecting the subways. ABC's Whit Johnson from New York tonight.
Tonight, New York City disinfecting thousands of trains, buses, and stations. The massive cleaning effort following the state's first suspected case of community spread of the virus. A man in his 50s from Westchester County now hospitalized in serious condition.
We're very concerned because of what appears to be previous respiratory condition, which creates more danger.
The man commuted by train to Grand Central Station, saying he also traveled recently to Israel and Miami. His family now under quarantine, and 2 schools closed connected to his son. It's New York's second case of COVID-19 after a healthcare worker tested positive following a trip to Iran. The number's growing, more than 110 cases across the U.S., at least 15 states affected. In Washington state, the death toll jumping to 9, where the elderly have been hit hardest at this nursing center. Our Kaylee Hartung is there.
For a second night in a row here at Life Care, we've seen emergency vehicles speed in, and now another person taken to the hospital.
Tonight, word of 7 more cases in the state, including 2 men in their 20s. That virus on the move. A new case in North Carolina traced back to that nursing home in Washington. Today, more than 120 evacuees from the Diamond Princess cruise ship released from quarantine at Lackland Air Force Base and bused to the airport.
Where are you heading to?
But only those who have been symptom-free for a full 14 days after local officials blasted the CDC for releasing a woman who later tested positive for COVID-19. Tonight, hundreds of American college students are making their way home from study abroad programs after last night's announcement.
There will be 100% screening, all direct flights at all airports across Italy and across South Korea.
But Chloe Froning, on her way home from Italy, had to connect through Amsterdam. She tells us she wasn't screened at all.
As of right now, we have not experienced any sort of extra check based on anything regarding the coronavirus.
Not even a temperature check before boarding her flight to Atlanta.
The guy asked me if I had been to Iran or China in the last 2 weeks. Interestingly, not Italy.
And so let's get to Whit Johnson tonight. He's now outside the hospital in New York where this patient is being treated. As you reported there, Whit, he's in serious condition. You also reported his family is in self-quarantine, his children as well. But this is actually widening tonight.
David, health officials are ordering anyone who recently came in contact with that patient to self-quarantine, and that includes members of his congregation at his synagogue through at least the end of the week. David?
All right, Whit Johnson tonight. Whit, thank you. We know so many of you at home have many questions about all this, particularly given the conflicting messages on a possible treatment in the works now for people who have coronavirus and work on a vaccine for those who haven't gotten it. 2 very different timelines here. The director of the National Institutes of Health, Dr. Anthony Fauci, tried to clear this up on Capitol Hill today, so we wanted to cut through it all for you at home. So let's bring in our chief medical editor, Dr. Jen Ashton, with us here again tonight. We heard Dr. Fauci talk about a possible therapy, a possible treatment, several of them, in fact, being tested right now. He actually named one by name. What's the status of this all?
There's some excitement about that, David. It's an old drug that didn't work against Ebola, but shown some promise against other coronaviruses. It is in clinical trials now. We should expect some results in a few weeks, and this would be for people with moderate or severe novel coronavirus.
Now, on the vaccine, because we've heard varying messages, the president has talked about a vaccine often in the last couple of days. Dr. Fauci clarifying in the room with the president. Dr. Fauci went back at this again today, and what's he saying about the testing of a vaccine That's a very different timeline.
Here in this country, about to start phase 1 clinical trials, but David, still about 12 to 18 months away from that vaccine being available to the public.
You know, Dr. Fauci said something else that echoed what we've been reporting here for several nights on World News, and that is that 80% figure. He said data again today out of China shows that about 80% of these cases showed mild symptoms.
That's right. That's an important number, David. 80% showing mild symptoms. And again, those people spontaneously recover. But it is important to remind people, take these simple steps to reduce risk. Wash your hands, cover your nose and mouth, don't touch your face. And if you are sick, stay home.
Quick last question for you, Jen, because I was thinking about this today. Our phones, we carry them all day long. We put them up to our faces.
Very dirty, wipe them down as often as possible.
As often as possible. Right, Dr. Ashton with us. Jen, thank you. And after a week of massive losses in the financial markets, the Federal Reserve taking emergency action. Chairman Jerome Powell announcing its biggest surprise rate cut since the 2008 financial crisis, slashing its benchmark interest rate a half a percentage point. But the move appeared, at least at first, to have backfired, heightening investor fears about the economic picture ahead. The Dow actually falling another 785 points today, nearly 3% after that up day yesterday. Now to the race for 2020 tonight. Super Tuesday underway, voting in 14 states and America Samoa. And the biggest primary day, about a third of all delegates at stake tonight. Joe Biden with new momentum. Amy Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg, Beto O'Rourke, all endorsing him overnight. Bernie Sanders coming into this evening with his coast-to-coast grassroots operation. Mike Bloomberg, of course, on the ballot for the first time tonight, spending hundreds of millions to get there. Elizabeth Warren facing a major test of her own tonight. And this evening, the preliminary exit polls coming in right now. Out of Virginia, look at this. 56% of the voters said they would rather have a candidate who can beat President Trump than one who agrees with them on the major issues. That same question from North Carolina tonight. Take a look. 62% of voters said it's more important to beat President Trump than a candidate who agrees on major issues. And this question tonight from Texas, after those late endorsements for Biden in Texas last night, 23% saying they have made up their mind in the last few days. 76% said earlier than that, so we'll see how that impacts this big night ahead. ABC's Eva Pilgrim on the campaign trail, and the biggest state voting tonight, California.
Joe Biden heading into Super Tuesday with a rush of momentum.
My hopes are high. I think we're going to do well on Super Tuesday.
It's been an extraordinary 24 hours. 3 of Biden's former rivals embracing him in a giant bear hug. Senator Amy Klobuchar.
We have a president that has no empathy, that cannot put himself in the shoes of the people of this country. Well, guess who can do that? And that is Joe Biden.
Former Congressman Beto O'Rourke.
I will be casting my ballot for Joe Biden.
And former South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg.
That I'm delighted to endorse and support Joe Biden for president.
Yeah. Biden clearly moved.
He reminds me of my son, Beau. And I know that may not mean much to most people, but to me, it's the highest compliment I could give any man or woman.
The Biden campaign couldn't print these T-shirts fast enough. The message? Democrats are unifying around the former VP. Hillary Clinton, who has not endorsed a candidate, summed it up in an interview with ABC's Lindsay Davis.
Beat Donald Trump. Do you agree? I don't think he'd be our strongest nominee, no. And that's what this primary process is about. Let's see who emerges, but for every...
Still, Bernie Sanders enters Super Tuesday as the undisputed frontrunner, declaring his grassroots army will win in November.
To beat Donald Trump, we are going to need to have the largest voter turnout in the history of this country. We need energy. We need excitement. I think our campaign is that campaign.
The Vermont senator brushing off Biden's endorsements.
We are taking on the establishment. And I fully understand, no great surprise to me, that establishment politicians are not going to endorse us.
But today, for the first time, Sanders facing a new challenge from the center. Former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg on the ballot after pumping more than $500 million into his campaign.
Would a third place finish be good?
You know, if there's only 3 candidates, you can't do worse than that.
Well, there is Elizabeth Warren also.
I didn't realize she's still in. Is she?
And Senator Warren voted today in her home state of Massachusetts, hoping for a Super Tuesday turnaround.
This is about getting out and talking to people about what's possible, the change that's possible in this country.